All right. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, we're going to pick back up with this Judas Sakari story. This may not be, well, the final video, but we're going to try. I don't want to really skip over much of this chapter 74 because, like I said, it is fire. It is the Lord and the Lady and their companions. They meet John the Baptizer and his students at Gedi. And then it's this feature in the Sermon on the Cliffs above Gedi. Man, in this chapter is the Beatitudes. They be going in. They read from the Matanah. They talk about a lot about false beliefs. So there's like a circle. There's two circles here that they're going to talk about. The first circle is their companions. And we do have those names, and I'll probably name them in one video. And then the second circle, they're called John's disciples, and there was 33 of them. Judas Sakari is one of them, and John says right here in the beginning that of the 33 that he's trained and baptized and prepared them to meet the Lord and the Lady, he can only vouch for 32 of them. And then when Yahshua and Miriam looked the crowd over, they knew it was Judas. And so I read a little bit about that and what a Sakari was in the Judas Sakari video, and it means assassin. Sakari is an assassin affiliated with the Zealot movement within Aaronite Judaism. These Zealots represent a violent uprising against the Roman occupation. Judas Sakari was an assassin for hire, willing to take jobs from whoever would pay him. I've got to skip on down now. It says, "Lo, you will continue to be trained in the way of the Lord and the Lady, but one thing cannot be taught, loyalty. Yea, the greatest disciple is he or she that remains loyal to the Lord and the Lady, even when that loyalty causes worldly hardship. Your reward is heavenly consciousness, regardless of physical location. Cultivate loyalty as you would a rare and heavenly flower, for indeed it is. Yea, blessed are you even when former friends and family separate themselves from you or mock or speak evil of you due to your devotion to the Lord and the Lady and our Nasarean way. Give thanks and dance with the angel of joy when you receive worldly persecution." He says in verse 171, "Behold, you are volunteering to go on the road and promote the ministry of the Lord and the Lady to Israel. Thus you are sacrificing your personal lives for the greater good of Israel. The sacrificial cult salts their sacrifices in order to preserve their meat. So, if you are to preserve your sacrifice, you must salt yourself. Yea, you must salt yourself with a heavy dose of tolerance. Tolerance is the salt of the saints." Miriam continued speaking to this gathering of the Nasarean companions of the Lord and the Lady and the former Aaronites trained by John, the two circles that would serve in the outreach mission of the Lord and the Lady to Israel. Miriam said to this assembly, "On the cliffs above Gedi, behold, we are not ignorant of the false beliefs that are common to this stage of the development of humankind. We understand that those false beliefs include the patriarchal belief that uphold the domination of women by men. We are not ignorant of the truth that such deeply ingrained cultural beliefs die slowly, not quickly. Wherefore we will provide that some limited measure of truth be given unto those not ready to fully receive us, and that limited measure is whatever portion of our way each can receive now, with the prayer that it will prepare each to receive us fully when we come again in the end of the last days, or whenever that soul is ripened enough to receive our full gospel." The Megillah is the highest expression of spirituality ever written for the eyes of humankind, but many, even most, have not yet reached a level of spiritual awareness to see what, for those of higher spiritual awareness, is self-evident. The only proof of the spiritual validity of any scriptures is the level of spirituality that it expresses. How could it be otherwise? We send you, in a sense, like gentle lambs walking homeless in a land of many wolves. Even so, I say, be wiser than serpent-worshipping wolves, and remain gentle like a lamb. Return words of kindness for unkind words, and return blessings for cursings. For to be bitten by a wolf harms not the soul, but to behave like a wolf is to become a wolf. On these very cliffs above Gedi, we will baptize and train John's disciples to become not simply Nasareans, which job John has well begun, but to also perform specific roles in our plan of action related to our outreach ministry in Israel, particularly our outreach to the Aaronite religion that you know so well. You former Aaronites will be our ambassadors or apostles to the Aaronites, representing us to both the Sadducees and the Pharisees among them. Prior to sending you each out to perform your initial missions, then to return to us to receive your next assignment, we will camp here with you for as many moons as seems appropriate based on your progress. It says, that time will be an intensive training in our version of Essene Yoga and in personalized training to prepare each of you for your particular missions. Our travel companions, our first circle of apostles to Israel, will be trained to be the overseers of our second circle of apostles to Israel and to perform their own special missions of various kinds. It is important to understand that not only are we purposely fulfilling the Nasarean messianic prophecies of the Holy Megillah, which call for the coming of the Lord Christ and the Lady Christ, but now will purposely also fulfill one of the various Aaronite messianic prophecies, that of the Messiah of peace, because the Aaronite Jews do not recognize the right of a woman to the priesthood or to study and teach their scriptures. They are not prepared and are strongly conditioned against the Nasarean idea of a feminine co-Messiah, a female Christ. Because it will be me that fulfills the role of the expected by the Aaronite Jews of Israel, Messiah of peace. The ministry of Magdalene among the Aaronites will be more behind the scenes than it has been among the Nasarean nations of Yisrael. So there, Yahshua is telling these apostles what their mission is. This is so fresh. Yahshua says, my fulfillment of the Aaronite Messiah of peace prophecy is an outreach mission to raise the spiritual vibration of the Aaronite religion to a higher level of universal love consciousness. Lo, though I fulfill only the Aaronites' best sort of messianic prophecies, the best of those related to the Messiah of peace, even then I must differentiate my teachings from some violent and unwise words associated with those prophecies in the Aaronite scriptures. When Yahshua is talking about the Aaronite scriptures, he's talking about the Torah, just in case you're new and you don't know. For lo, even their Messiah of peace prophecies are not without violent aspects. Besides their few Messiah of peace verses, the best of their messianic prophecies, the Aaronites also have very violent warrior Messiah prophecies. He says in verse 325, my greatest challenge in being accepted by the Aaronites as their long-awaited Messiah of peace is that to live up to my own consciousness, I must heavily critique their violent scriptures. Do you see the irony? I will be fulfilling certain prophecies of the scripture that I consider way too violent, even dark and satanic in some parts, such as Leviticus. He says, I will only be doing this for one reason, love. I will give my human life for love, for the Messiah of the Aaronites will be crucified like a sacrificial lamb. I will forgive them for that crime, making the consequences less than otherwise would be the case, and in doing so will leave behind a set of universal love teachings that they can follow as best they can. The Nezerian Christianity that will result will include the Nasarean doctrine of vegetarianism, which will be linked to their original vegetarian diet injunction given in their version of Genesis, and will forbid slavery. But most Aaronites are not ready to receive a female Messiah or our teachings on the divine feminine. But the Nezerian Christianity, though more nonviolent and somewhat more spiritually elevated than Aaronite Judaism, is nevertheless some rungs below the Nasarean religion of the Essene way, the full gospel religion of the Lord and the Lady Christ, the religion of the Holy Megillah, Nasarean Bible of the Essene way. The few that are ready to become Nasareans are the cream of the crop of the human harvest, but are a small minority. You former Aaronites will be trained to minister to Aaronites ready to receive their long-awaited Messiah of peace. And when you recognize one that is also ready to receive the Nasarean full gospel religion, bring him or her to one of our travel companions assigned to oversee your ministry. Another former Aaronite, one that was prepared by John, asked the question. He said, Lord, you say that the Aaronite Jews that we will outreach to will be required to embrace vegetarianism to receive baptism. How can we preach vegetarianism to them when so few Aaronites are vegetarian? Will they not reject it as being strictly a Nazarene practice? Yahshua replied, show them that even in their own Aaronite scriptures, vegetarianism is the original diet given by God to humankind. Read to them the scriptures from their own Bible that reads, I give you all plants and herbs that bear seed, and every tree that bears fruit to be your food. He says, then also show them the verses about the coming peaceable kingdom prophesied in their own Aaronite scriptures, the lion and the lamb feeding non-violently together as friends. The Lord and the Lady then baptized the disciples of John into the co-messiahship of the Lord and the Lady. One by one, Yahshua and Miriam called them up to the baptismal pool and baptized them. Some noticed, but most did not, that the Lord and the Lady did not call Judas to the baptismal pool. So it says, as it had happened, this intensive spiritual training on the cliffs above in Gedi lasted for 4 months. Ha-azinu, give ear. Marian and I will accomplish our work, and a big reason why is your helpful participation in this outreach mission. This mission is from the heart of Yisrael to the heart of Israel. We launch it in the one nation that names itself Israel, but to Nasareans, all nations outside of Yisrael are an extension of Israel. And that is because the first nation outside of Yisrael was Israel. And all subsequent nations are extensions of the meaning of that name. Israel means wrong relationship with Elohim. Yisrael means right relationship with Elohim. Only those persons that accept both the Lord Christ and the Lady Christ are in right relationship with Elohim. Elohim is plural for a reason. The nations that call itself Israel is the heart of all Israel. And so we begin our public outreach missions here in this region. Even so, this mission is to the entire world. And long after the Lord and the Lady drop these bodies, behold, our mission will be continued by our disciples. Aaronites will wonder, is this land here not Judah, while the land of Israel is further north? Behold, Nasareans remember the old boundaries and do not recognize the political split between the south Judah, also called Judea, and the north Israel. Ha-azinu, give ear, we appreciate your help, yea, and the future help of many as yet not born. Our disciples love us, and we love our disciples. You that live in us, we live in you. It says the Bhakti Yoga Guru discipline relationship that you entered at the time of baptism into our yoke, that is the Essene Yoga, is a reciprocal love relationship. This love relationship goes both ways. We love you and enjoy being with you. Typically, most of you will be divided into groups of 4, with a group leader chosen by us. Each group of 4 is called a block. Each group leader, called block leader or cornerstone, will report to one of our travel companions assigned to be the communication liaison to that block. He says in verse 45, to each of the 4-person blocks I say, Ha-azinu, give ear. Each seemingly separate block is a part of one strong foundation of the temple of Christ. Upon these stones, we will build our church. So fresh, right? So now we're in chapter 76. It says, the morning after the last night on the cliffs above En-Gedi, the various blocks of 4-person teams began to depart. Behold, there was a certain methodology that the Lord and the Lady had set in motion with the launching of the 4-person groups to various locations. Each of these 4 groups made up of those disciples that had first been trained by John the Baptist were sent to different locations that the Lord and the Lady planned a visit. Each of those groups, typically 8 groups, because the Lord and the Lady did not include Judas on these teams, instead sending him on various solo missions to feed the poor. Remember that of the 33 that John the Baptist left with Yahshua, he only vouched for 32, for lo, the other was Judas, an infiltrator spotted as such by John, Yahshua, and Miriam. Judas was willing to go on those missions to feed the poor in the regions we companions, and then it's got a note here, I am Sarah, Jaleel, one of the companions, that's who the authorized scribe is of this manuscript. She says Judas was willing to go on those missions that they traveled to because each time the Lord gave him a bag of money to buy food to freely distribute. It says the Lord knew that Judas was stealing some money for himself, but each time ignored it because it was a way to keep Judas from finding out the locations of the various safe houses in each region. For as the Lord told us, Judas is a paid informant, and should he discover and report the locations of Nasarean safe houses, lo, the lives of many Nasareans will be at risk. And the Lord knew that Judas would still use a goodly portion of the money to buy food to distribute, for Judas would not want his theft to be too obvious. After the last of those 8 4-person block had departed, lo, the Lord and the Lady and their travel companions remained in the vicinity of Gedi for 1 Nasarean month, which is 28 days, being 4 weeks of 7 days each, according to the Nasarean calendar. That would provide adequate time for the advance team, the block, sent to Bethany to successfully prepare a group of interested persons to come and hear the Lord and the Lady preach. They was networking, yo. Man, it says, Ha Azenu, give ear. Each seemingly separate block is a part of one strong foundation of the temple of Christ. Upon these stones, we will build our church. But we'll hear more about Judas when I bring the Last Supper story. So stay tuned for that, guys. Thanks for watching. What do I say? Oh, keep your shield of light nice and tight. All right.